Olivia grew up believing her family was perfect. From the outside, the Parkers looked like the kind of family everyone wished to have. They smiled in every photo, attended church on Sundays, and hosted family dinners that seemed full of laughter. But behind those warm smiles and polite words, something else lived quietly in their house, an invisible wall that slowly pushed Olivia to the side. Her mother, Linda, was kind and caring in public, always telling people how proud she was of her two daughters. Her father, Robert, worked long hours but made sure the bills were paid and the house stayed comfortable. And then there was Chloe, Olivia's younger sister, the one everyone called the sweetheart of the family. Chloe had a bright laugh and a way of getting attention without even trying. When she wanted something, she usually got it. When Olivia was little, she didn't mind. She loved her sister and thought that sharing everything was what good sisters did. She helped Chloe with her homework, gave her toys, and even took the blame when Chloe broke something. Their parents would scold Olivia gently and tell her to be more careful next time. Chloe would stand behind them with a small smile, pretending to be innocent. As the years passed, things began to change. Olivia noticed that whenever she did something right, her parents didn't seem to care much. When she got an A on a school project, her mother smiled but quickly turned to Chloe, asking about her day. When Chloe brought home a painting from school, her parents hung it on the living room wall as if it were a masterpiece. Olivia's project, the one that won a small award, stayed in a box under her bed. It wasn't that they were cruel. They never shouted or punished her unfairly. It was worse than that, they simply forgot she was there. It was as if their love had a limit, and Chloe had taken all of it. Olivia told herself not to think that way. She tried to be the good daughter, the quiet one, the one who didn't cause trouble. But deep inside, a small pain began to grow, a pain she didn't know how to name. By the time she turned 16, the difference was impossible to ignore. Chloe had turned 14 and was already the center of attention. Their parents spent hours helping her pick outfits, driving her to dance practice, and attending every event where she performed. Olivia, on the other hand, had to take the bus home alone after school and cook dinner before her parents returned. When she asked why, her mother said gently, "You're more mature, Olivia. You can handle things." She smiled and said okay, but that night she cried in silence. Her pillow soaked with tears that no one ever noticed. The only time she felt peace was when she walked to the small park behind their neighborhood. There, she could sit under a tree with her notebook and draw or write stories. It was her secret world, a place where she didn't have to compete for attention or love. In that quiet space, she dreamed of one day being someone who mattered. At school, she wasn't popular, but she was kind. Teachers liked her because she listened. Friends came and went, but no one stayed long. Some said she was too quiet. Others thought she was shy. She wasn't shy, she just learned that in her world, speaking up didn't change anything. One evening, her father came home early, holding a box of chocolates. Chloe had won a small dance competition, and they were celebrating. Olivia joined them, clapping politely, but no one noticed she had just received a letter from school, an invitation to represent her class in a regional writing contest. She slipped the letter back into her pocket, telling herself she would show them later. But later never came. That night, as she helped clear the table, Chloe said something that stayed in Olivia's mind for years. "Mom says I'm the heart of this family," she said with a proud grin. "She says you're the quiet one who doesn't need much attention." Olivia just nodded, pretending not to care, but the words cut deeper than she expected. For the first time, she realized she wasn't seen as an equal. She was just the background, the quiet shadow in her sister's light. Her parents didn't notice the sadness in her eyes. They were busy planning Chloe's next dance show. Olivia smiled weakly, excused herself, and went to her room. She sat by the window, staring at the stars, wondering what made her so easy to forget. Maybe, she thought, if she worked harder, if she smiled more, they would see her. But even as she promised herself that, she knew deep down that something was broken, not in her, but in the love that was supposed to protect her. The house felt colder that night. The laughter from the living room echoed faintly through her door. She hugged her pillow and whispered to herself, "One day, I'll matter. One day, they'll see me." Outside, the stars blinked quietly, like tiny witnesses to a truth she didn't yet understand. The perfect family wasn't perfect at all. It was just a picture that would soon start to crack. Months passed, and Olivia's life inside the Parker home became quieter. Her parents' attention stayed fixed on Chloe, who was now growing into a confident and popular teenager. The house was always full of laughter when Chloe's friends visited, while Olivia's room remained the silent corner of the house. She spent most of her evenings doing homework alone or helping her mother with chores that no one thanked her for. Her father often told her that Chloe had a special charm and that not everyone could shine like her. He said it kindly, but each time, those words made Olivia feel smaller. She wanted to believe that her worth wasn't measured by how loudly she could impress people, but it was hard when everyone around her acted as if Chloe's happiness was the only thing that mattered. When Olivia turned 17, she got a small job at the local bookstore. She loved the quiet smell of books and the calm faces of the customers who came in to read. It was her little world, one that didn't depend on her sister's mood or her parents' approval. Her boss, Mr. Davis, was kind and often told her she had a good heart. Sometimes, he would let her take home old books that nobody bought anymore. She would read them late at night under the dim light of her bedside lamp, escaping into other lives, other families, and other worlds where people were seen and loved. One evening, Olivia returned home with excitement. Her teacher had told her that she had been nominated for a scholarship. It wasn't huge, but it was something she could use for college. She walked into the house smiling, ready to tell her parents. But before she could say anything, her mother shouted from the kitchen, "Chloe just got invited to perform at the city dance show." The living room filled with claps and laughter. Her father hugged Chloe proudly. Olivia stood there quietly, holding the scholarship paper in her hand. No one noticed it. No one asked what she was holding. After a few minutes, she folded the paper and slipped it into her bag. Her voice, once again, went unheard. Later that night, she sat in her room with tears streaming down her face. It wasn't jealousy. It was the loneliness, the feeling of being invisible in her own home. She wondered if love had to be earned, or if she was simply not born to be loved the same way Chloe was. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between Olivia and her family grew wider. Her mother would often compare the two sisters without realizing how cruel it sounded. "Chloe is more outgoing," she would say. "You could learn from her." Or sometimes, "Why can't you smile more like your sister?" Olivia would just nod, pretending it didn't hurt. But inside, she was breaking piece by piece. One Saturday afternoon, Olivia overheard a conversation that changed how she saw everything. She was cleaning the hallway when she heard her mother's voice from the living room. "I think Olivia's been acting strange," Linda said. "She's always quiet and distant. I don't know what's wrong with her." Robert sighed. "She's probably jealous of Chloe. We should ignore it. The more we feed it, the worse it gets." "Maybe you're right," Linda said. "Chloe doesn't like it when Olivia's around too much. She says it makes her uncomfortable." Olivia froze. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her sister, the one she had loved and protected all her life, didn't even want her around. And her parents, instead of helping her, agreed that her absence would make things better. Her hands trembled as she picked up the cleaning cloth and walked back to her room, fighting to hold back her tears. That night, she didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about how easily they dismissed her feelings. Maybe she was just a guest in her own home, tolerated but not wanted. It was the first time she thought about leaving. Not out of anger, but because staying there felt like slowly disappearing. At the bookstore the next day, she worked quietly, but Mr. Davis noticed something was wrong. "Everything okay, Olivia?" he asked gently. She forced a smile. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice betrayed her. He didn't push further, but his kind eyes told her he understood more than she said. One evening, when she came home late after work, Chloe was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Mom said you should start looking for somewhere else to stay if you're going to work so late," Chloe said casually without looking up. It bothers everyone when you come in after dinner. Olivia stared at her, speechless. You mean Mom said that? Chloe shrugged. Well, you're old enough. Maybe it's time you have your own life. Her heart pounded. The words hit her harder than she expected. It was clear now, her presence was no longer welcome. But she said nothing. She walked to her room, closed the door, and sat on her bed. The room that once felt small and lonely now felt like it didn't belong to her at all. Outside, laughter echoed from the living room again, the same laughter that had filled the house for years, only this time, it sounded different. It sounded like, goodbye. That night, Olivia looked out her window, the city lights glowing faintly in the distance. She didn't know where she would go or what she would do, but she knew one thing, the home she loved no longer loved her back. And soon, she would have to find the courage to walk away from it. The next few weeks were heavy for Olivia. The words she had overheard from her parents kept replaying in her mind. Each time she looked at them, she saw strangers pretending to care. Every meal felt colder, every smile felt fake. She moved through her days quietly, doing chores, going to work, and staying out of everyone's way. The silence became her protection. One evening, her father called her into the living room. Chloe was sitting beside him, looking pleased. Her mother stood behind them with folded arms. Olivia's stomach turned. She could feel something was wrong. Her father cleared his throat. Olivia, he said, we think it's time for you to start living on your own. She blinked. What do you mean? Her mother sighed softly. You're almost 19, dear. It's time for you to experience independence. Chloe needs space, and you're working now. We think it would be better for everyone. The words hit her like cold rain. She stared at them, trying to understand how easily they were saying it. You want me to leave, she whispered. Her father nodded, avoiding her eyes. It's not that we don't love you. It's just, you've outgrown this house. You'll thank us one day. Olivia felt her throat tighten. Chloe smiled faintly and said, don't take it the wrong way, Olivia. It'll be good for you. In that moment, Olivia realized the truth, she was being pushed out, not set free. She wanted to scream, to ask how love could turn into rejection, but no words came out. She just stood there, frozen, her eyes filling with tears. Her mother placed an envelope on the table. We saved a little money for you, she said softly. It's not much, but it should help you start somewhere. It wasn't kindness, it was a goodbye. Olivia picked up the envelope, nodded silently, and went to her room. That night, she packed her clothes into a small suitcase. Every sound, the rustling of fabric, the soft creak of the door, felt like the closing of a chapter she wasn't ready to end. She looked around the room one last time. The posters on the wall, the books she loved, the little plant on her windowsill, they were all pieces of her that didn't belong here anymore. When she came out with her bag, no one helped her. Chloe waved casually from the couch. Her mother gave her a brief hug. Her father said, take care of yourself. Then he went back to watching TV. The front door closed behind her with a soft click, and the cold night air hit her face. For the first time in her life, she had no home. Olivia walked aimlessly down the street, holding her bag close. Tears blurred her vision. The city lights looked distant and strange. She found a bench near the bus stop and sat down, her heart aching in her chest. She wanted to believe this was just a dream, that her parents would call her back, tell her they were sorry, tell her they loved her. But the phone in her hand stayed silent. After a while, she called her friend Megan. They had met at the bookstore months ago, and Megan was one of the few people who treated her like she mattered. When she heard Olivia's shaky voice, she didn't ask questions. Come stay with me, she said right away. You don't need to be alone tonight. Olivia spent the next few weeks at Megan's small apartment. It wasn't perfect, the couch was lumpy, and the walls were thin, but it felt warmer than the house she had left behind. Megan listened as Olivia cried, comforted her when she couldn't sleep, and helped her find a part-time job at a local cafe. Slowly, Olivia started to stand again. But the pain didn't disappear overnight. Some mornings, she woke up missing her family so badly that she almost went back. Other times, she felt angry at herself for still caring. She couldn't understand how parents could choose one child over another. She wondered if maybe she had done something wrong, maybe she wasn't lovable enough. One afternoon, she decided to visit her old neighborhood. She walked past her family's house quietly. The windows were open, and she could hear laughter, Chloe's laughter. They sounded happy, as if nothing had changed. Olivia turned away quickly, tears stinging her eyes. They had moved on, and she needed to do the same. That night, as she sat with Megan, she made a silent promise to herself. She wouldn't let their betrayal define her life. If they wanted her gone, she would make sure they'd one day regret losing her. Not through anger or revenge, but by becoming someone they could never ignore again. The next day, she went out looking for more work. She found a flyer for night classes at the community college and decided to apply. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Every small step she took was a way of telling herself, I'm still here. I'm still worth something. Months later, she got her first small apartment, a studio with old wooden floors and a leaky faucet. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. She filled it with books, drawings, and the quiet peace she always wanted. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. And though her heart still carried scars, she also carried something new, hope. Olivia didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Life had taken everything from her, but it was also giving her the chance to rebuild herself, piece by piece, stronger than before. Olivia's new life was quiet but hard. Every morning, she woke up before sunrise to open the cafe where she worked. The smell of coffee and the sound of the machines became the rhythm of her days. She learned to smile at customers, even when her feet hurt and her eyes felt heavy from studying at night. Life wasn't easy, but it was hers, and that made all the difference. Sometimes, when she wiped the tables or looked out the window at people walking by, she wondered what her family was doing. She missed her mother's cooking, her father's deep voice, even the sound of Chloe's laughter. But every time she thought of going back, the memory of that night, their cold faces, their careless words, reminded her why she couldn't. Megan often reminded her how far she had come. You're stronger than you think, she would say. Olivia smiled, but deep inside, she still carried the ache of being unwanted. It wasn't something that disappeared overnight. It was a quiet shadow that followed her everywhere. One afternoon, while she was serving coffee, a woman walked in wearing a blue business suit. She seemed confident and kind. After ordering, she noticed Olivia's college books stacked near the register. You study too, the woman asked. Olivia nodded shyly. Yes, I take classes at night. Marketing and communications. The woman smiled. That's impressive. I'm Clara Miller. I run a small marketing company nearby. If you ever need an internship, come by. Hardworking people like you are rare. It was a small conversation, but for Olivia, it meant everything. It was the first time in years that someone saw potential in her, not as a burden, not as someone's shadow, but as herself. She thanked Clara and kept the business card in her wallet, holding onto it like a sign that things were slowly changing. Days turned into months. Olivia balanced work, school, and exhaustion. There were nights she cried quietly in her small apartment, wondering if she was strong enough to keep going. But she did. She kept moving forward, one tired step at a time. Then one evening, as she sat in class, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, hi, Olivia. It's Mom. Can we talk? Asterisk. Her heart stopped. She stared at the message, her hands trembling. After all this time, they were reaching out. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to delete it. Another part wanted to run to them and ask why. But she didn't reply. Not that night. Over the next few days, more messages came. Asterisk, we miss you. Asterisk, your father isn't feeling well. Asterisk asterisk, Chloe has been asking about you. Asterisk, each one brought back a wave of emotions she thought she had buried. Finally, she replied with one short message, asterisk, I'm doing fine. Asterisk. Her mother called immediately. Olivia hesitated but answered. The voice on the other end was soft, uncertain. Olivia, honey, how are you? I'm okay, she said quietly. Her mother sighed. We've been thinking about you. Things have been hard here. Chloe moved to another city for her career. Your father's business isn't doing so well. We miss having you around. Olivia didn't know what to say. For years, she had dreamed of hearing those words. But now, they felt strange, hollow, even. I hope you're both okay, she said softly. Her mother hesitated. Would you come visit us? Just for dinner? Olivia looked around her small apartment, her books, her coffee mug, her independence, and felt torn between two worlds. Maybe sometime, she said finally. I'm really busy right now. After hanging up, she sat in silence. The call had opened old wounds, but it also made her realize something important. She no longer needed their approval to feel whole. The girl who once begged for attention was gone. In her place stood a woman who had built her own life, brick by brick. A few weeks later, she visited Clara's office to ask about the internship. Clara remembered her right away. I was hoping you'd come, she said with a smile. Let's see what you can do. The office was small but full of energy. Olivia worked hard, learning everything she could. Her ideas were creative, and her dedication caught everyone's attention. By the end of the semester, Clara offered her a full-time position. Olivia could hardly believe it. For the first time in her life, someone chose her, not because they had to, but because she earned it. When she told Megan the news, her friend hugged her tightly. See? You didn't need them to believe in you. You did it yourself. That night, Olivia stood on her apartment balcony, watching the city lights glow below. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer defined her. She finally understood that love shouldn't be begged for, it should be freely given. And if her family couldn't give her that, she would find it in herself. Still, a small voice inside her wondered if one day, they would truly understand what they had done, and what they had lost. She didn't want revenge. But she knew the day would come when they would see the woman she had become, strong, independent, and unbreakable. And that day would change everything. Olivia's new job at the marketing company changed everything. Each morning, she woke up early, dressed neatly, and walked to work with quiet pride. The office was small but bright, filled with friendly faces who appreciated her ideas and hard work. For the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Her boss, Clara, often praised her for her creativity. You have a natural gift, Olivia, she said one day. You see things others miss. Those words stayed in Olivia's heart. It felt strange to be valued after years of being ignored. Every compliment, every small success healed a part of her that had once been broken. At night, when she came home to her apartment, she sometimes thought about her parents. She wondered if they were still struggling or if Chloe had returned. A part of her still missed them, but another part was afraid of being hurt again. She had built a life on her own, and she wasn't sure she wanted to open that door anymore. Months turned into a year, and Olivia grew more confident. She saved money, decorated her apartment with little things that made her smile, and even adopted a cat she named Milo. Her world, once filled with silence and loneliness, now felt alive. One afternoon, while she was preparing a presentation at work, Clara walked over with a warm smile. You've been doing an excellent job. There's a regional conference next month, and I want you to represent our company. Olivia blinked in surprise. Me? Yes, you, Clara said. You've earned it. That night, Olivia sat by her window, thinking about how far she had come. The same girl who was once told she was unwanted was now trusted with real responsibility. She smiled softly, whispering to herself, I made it. A week later, while checking her mail, she found a letter with familiar handwriting. It was from her mother. Her hands shook as she opened it. The letter was short and filled with regret. Her mother wrote that Chloe had left for another city and barely spoke to them anymore. Their father's health had declined, and the business had failed completely. They had lost their home and were now living in a small rented apartment. At the end, her mother wrote, "We wish we could see you again. We are so sorry for how we treated you. Please come back." Olivia read the letter several times. Her heart ached. All the years of pain and loneliness came flooding back. She had imagined this moment so many times, the day they would realize their mistake, but now that it was here, she didn't feel happy. She felt sad, not for herself, but for them. She spent the night thinking. Should she go? Should she forgive them? Megan advised her gently. "You don't owe them anything," she said, "but if seeing them brings you peace, do it on your terms." The next Sunday, Olivia took a bus to her old neighborhood. Her heart raced as she walked down the familiar street. The house she grew up in was sold, and another family lived there now. It felt strange, like visiting a ghost from another life. She finally reached the address her mother had written in the letter, a small, worn-down apartment building near the edge of town. She knocked on the door. After a moment, her mother opened it. Her hair was grayer, her face lined with worry. When she saw Olivia, tears filled her eyes. "Oh, Olivia," she whispered, pulling her into a shaky hug. Inside, the place was simple. Her father sat on the couch, thinner than she remembered. He looked up, ashamed. "Hi, sweetheart," he said softly. "You look successful." Olivia sat quietly, unsure what to say. Her mother tried to explain between tears. "We were wrong, Olivia. We thought we were doing what was best. We didn't realize how much we hurt you." Her father nodded slowly. "We were foolish. We favored Chloe and lost you. And now we've lost her too." For a long time, no one spoke. The room was filled with all the words they had never said. Olivia looked at them, the people who had thrown her out, and saw not monsters, but broken people who finally understood the cost of their choices. "I forgave you a long time ago," she said quietly. "But I can't forget. I've built my life now. I'm not angry anymore, but I can't come back." Her mother wiped her tears. "We understand. We just wanted to see you." Olivia smiled faintly. "I'm glad I came." She gave them a small envelope before leaving. Inside, she had placed some money, not as payment, but as a sign of peace. When she stepped outside, the sunlight felt warm on her face. For the first time, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel unwanted. She felt free. As she walked away, she realized her comeback wasn't about revenge or proving them wrong. It was about finding her strength again, the strength they once tried to take from her. Back in her apartment that night, she looked around at her life, her books, her job, her cat, her peace, and smiled. She whispered softly to herself, "They may have broken me once, but I rebuilt myself stronger." And deep inside, she knew that her story was no longer one of betrayal, but of victory. After meeting her parents, Olivia tried to move forward, but something inside her kept stirring. The memories of her childhood, the laughter, the love, the betrayal, all mixed together. Even though she had forgiven them, the emptiness of their relationship still haunted her at night. She often sat by her window with a cup of tea, watching the city lights shimmer below. Life had changed so much. She had become someone her younger self would never have imagined, strong, calm, and capable. But deep down, she still wondered what might have happened if her parents had loved her the way they should have. At work, Olivia's success continued to grow. The presentation she gave at the conference impressed everyone, including a senior executive from a large firm. A few days later, she received a call offering her a new position, with better pay and greater responsibilities. It felt like a reward for everything she had endured. She accepted the offer and moved to a bigger city. The move gave her a fresh start. Her new office was in a tall glass building surrounded by trees and bustling streets. Everyone respected her professionalism, but few knew the story behind her quiet strength. She rarely spoke about her past. One evening, as she left work, she received an unexpected call. It was her father. His voice was weak and trembling. "Olivia. I don't have much time left," he said slowly. "I just wanted to hear your voice one more time." Her heart tightened. "What's wrong?" she asked, though she already sensed the answer. "I'm sick," he whispered. "The doctors say there isn't much they can do. Your mother's been trying to be strong, but she's tired." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. Despite everything, he was still her father. She told him she'd visit soon. That night, she sat awake for hours, thinking. Old wounds reopened, but compassion softened them. She realized forgiveness wasn't a one-time act, it was a choice she had to make again and again. A week later, she traveled back to see her parents. The air felt heavy with memories as she walked into their small apartment. Her mother looked older, frilier. When she saw Olivia, she burst into tears. "You came," she whispered. Olivia nodded quietly. Her father was lying on a couch covered with a thin blanket. His face was pale, but his eyes still held warmth. "You didn't have to come," he said softly. "I wanted to," Olivia replied. They talked for hours. He apologized again for the past, his voice breaking several times. "I thought I was being a good father, but I was blind. You were the one who truly loved us." Olivia took his hand gently. "It's over now. You don't have to keep saying sorry." He smiled faintly. "You've become everything we hoped for, and more." A few days later, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. Olivia sat beside her mother, comforting her through quiet tears. The pain was deep, but it carried no anger. She had lost a father, not to betrayal this time, but to time itself. After the funeral, her mother clung to her. "I don't deserve your kindness," she whispered. "You're all I have left." Olivia stayed for a few days, helping her organize things and settle into a small home near a park. They began to talk more, about life, about regrets, and about Chloe, who had never returned. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, her mother said, "You know, I used to believe Chloe was our shining star. But now I see, you were the light we ignored. You were the one who kept the family together, even when we pushed you away." Olivia didn't know what to say. For years, she had longed to hear those words. Now that she did, she simply smiled through tears. "I just wanted to be loved," she said softly. Her mother nodded. "You deserved that and so much more." In the following months, Olivia visited often. She didn't move back, but she made sure her mother was never alone. Slowly, they rebuilt something fragile yet beautiful, not a perfect relationship, but an honest one. One night, as Olivia packed her suitcase to return to the city, her mother hugged her tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she whispered. Olivia smiled gently. "You're my mother. I can't change the past, but I can choose how I love now." On the train ride back, Olivia stared out at the moving lights. Her reflection on the window looked peaceful. She realized that her strength wasn't in rising above others or proving them wrong, it was in choosing compassion when she had every reason not to. She had turned her pain into purpose. When she reached home, she sat beside Milo, her cat, and smiled quietly. Her heart no longer ached the way it once did. She knew life would bring more challenges, but she had learned something powerful. Healing wasn't about forgetting, it was about growing beyond what broke you. And that night, as the city lights glowed outside her window, Olivia whispered a silent promise to herself: she would live fully, love deeply, and never let her past define her again. Years had passed since Olivia's parents' betrayal. She had built a life full of independence, purpose, and quiet joy. Her career at the marketing company flourished, and her small apartment felt like a safe haven. Friends surrounded her, and Milo, her loyal cat, never left her side. But life had a way of reminding her that the past never truly disappears. One morning, Olivia received an unexpected call. It was her mother, Linda, her voice shaky and uncertain. "Olivia. I don't know who else to call," she said. We need help. Olivia felt a twinge in her heart. She had learned to live without them, to stand tall without their validation, but a part of her could not ignore this plea. What happened? She asked cautiously. Her mother explained that Robert's health had worsened. Their financial situation had collapsed completely. Chloe had moved across the country, leaving them alone. We have nowhere else to go, her mother admitted. Olivia paused, thinking about all the years of pain and neglect. She had every reason to refuse, to close the door completely. But she remembered her own strength, the independence she had fought to achieve. Helping them did not mean forgiving the past, it meant showing compassion. Within days, Olivia rented a small apartment for her parents nearby. It wasn't grand, but it was safe and warm. When she arrived to help them move in, she saw the toll that life had taken. Her father looked thinner, his face pale and lined with worry. Her mother had aged faster than time should allow. Olivia quietly unpacked boxes, set up furniture, and made the space livable. She didn't lecture or scold, she simply helped. It was strange, seeing them in a state of vulnerability after all the years they had hurt her. Chloe was nowhere in sight, and Olivia realized that her sister's absence had changed everything. Days turned into weeks. Olivia balanced her work, her life, and caring for her parents. She didn't rush forgiveness. She didn't expect gratitude. She simply did what needed to be done, silently proving that she was no longer the girl who could be pushed aside. One afternoon, her father attempted to speak about the past. Olivia. I know we treated you unfairly. You didn't deserve it, he said, voice trembling. Olivia stopped what she was doing and looked at him. I know, she replied softly. But it doesn't matter anymore. I'm here now, and that's enough. Her mother nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. You're amazing, she whispered. You've grown into a woman we can only admire. Olivia felt a mix of emotions, sadness, relief, and something else, a quiet strength she hadn't realized she had. She no longer needed their approval to feel worthy. She was strong because she had built herself up, not because they had acknowledged her. Weeks later, Olivia returned to her apartment after work to find a small box on her doorstep. Inside was a letter from her parents. It read simply, "We may have failed you, but we are grateful for the second chance. You are our daughter, and we see you now. Thank you." For the first time, Olivia allowed herself a small smile. She realized that her comeback was complete, not because they apologized, but because she had risen above the pain. Life continued, and Olivia's career advanced. She was invited to speak at conferences, share her story, and mentor younger women. She became a source of inspiration, someone who had endured betrayal but had not let it break her spirit. Her relationship with her parents remained cautious but steady. They didn't erase the past, and she didn't expect them to. Instead, they built a new dynamic, one grounded in honesty, effort, and understanding. One evening, while Olivia prepared dinner for herself and Milo, she thought about Chloe. Her sister had left, chasing her own life, and Olivia realized she felt no anger. Chloe's absence didn't hurt the way it once had. Olivia had grown beyond that pain. She glanced out the window at the city lights and reflected on the journey she had traveled. From being pushed out of her home to creating a life of independence, compassion, and success, she had transformed every hurt into strength. In that quiet moment, Olivia understood a profound truth: her past did not define her. Her parents' betrayal could have broken her, but instead, it had shaped her into someone resilient, wise, and unstoppable. As night fell, she whispered a promise to herself, to continue living fully, loving wisely, and embracing every challenge. She had survived betrayal, nurtured herself, and returned not for revenge, but to claim her life. And in the quiet of her apartment, with Milo curled beside her, Olivia smiled, knowing that her comeback had not only shocked those who had doubted her, it had transformed her forever. Olivia had come a long way since the day her parents pushed her out of the house. She had built a life filled with independence, love, and purpose. Her career was thriving, her apartment felt like a sanctuary, and Milo, her cat, was always by her side. Every step she had taken had been a choice to rise above the pain, and now, she finally felt whole. Even with her success, she carried memories of the past, the betrayal, the loneliness, the nights she had cried in silence. But those memories no longer held power over her. They were reminders of how far she had come, not chains to keep her trapped. One morning, she received a call from a local media outlet. They wanted to feature her story, a story of a young woman who had faced rejection, betrayal, and hardship, yet had built a life of strength and independence. Olivia hesitated at first, unsure if she wanted to revisit the past, but then she realized that sharing her journey could inspire others. The interview was held in her apartment. She told the reporter about her childhood, her parents' favoritism toward Chloe, the years she had struggled alone, and how she had built her career and life from nothing. She spoke honestly about her pain, but also about her triumph. When she finished, the reporter looked at her with admiration. "Your story is incredible. You've turned betrayal into power." Olivia smiled quietly. That was exactly what she had done. She hadn't sought revenge or to prove anyone wrong, she had simply refused to let their choices define her life. A week later, she was invited to speak at a women's empowerment event. She stood on stage, looking at a crowd of young women eager to hear her story. She shared her journey, the struggles, the tears, the nights of loneliness, and how she had found strength within herself. She talked about forgiveness, not as a gift for others, but as a way to free herself from the weight of anger. After the speech, many approached her with tears in their eyes, thanking her for showing them that it was possible to rise above pain. Olivia realized that her comeback was not just personal, it was inspiring others. The strength she had fought to build was now helping others build theirs. One evening, she received another call from her mother. This time, Linda's voice was calmer. "Olivia, we're proud of you," she said. "Not because of what you've done for us, but because of who you are. We see you now." Olivia smiled softly. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." She knew she had forgiven them, but she also knew that her life belonged to her now. She didn't need validation to feel complete. As months passed, Olivia continued to thrive. She bought a small house with a garden, where she could sit and read under the sun. She adopted another cat, a little kitten she named Lily, who brought laughter and warmth into her home. Her career soared, and she even started mentoring young women who had faced similar struggles. She occasionally thought about Chloe. Her sister had chosen her own path and was distant, but Olivia felt no anger or bitterness. Life had taught her that holding on to resentment only held you back. Instead, she sent Chloe an occasional message, offering kind words, but never expecting a response. One quiet evening, Olivia sat on her porch with Milo and Lily curled beside her. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, and she felt a deep sense of peace. She whispered to herself, "I survived. I thrived. I am whole." Her journey had been painful, yes, but it had led her to a place of unimaginable strength. She had transformed betrayal into power, loneliness into independence, and hurt into compassion. The girl who was once invisible had become someone unshakable, someone who could face life's challenges without fear. In the end, Olivia's comeback was not about shocking her parents or proving them wrong. It was about claiming her life, her self-worth, and her happiness. She had grown beyond the limitations they had set, beyond the pain they had caused, and had become the woman she was always meant to be. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over her little garden, Olivia smiled, not with triumph over others, but with triumph over herself. She had conquered the past, embraced the present, and stepped boldly into the future, knowing that nothing could ever dim the light she had fought so hard to create. Her story was complete, not with revenge, but with freedom, strength, and peace. Olivia had returned from betrayal not broken, but reborn.